Welcome back to Strong, Confident, and Informed, the podcast where we go beyond surface level fitness advice and actually help you understand what's driving your results. I'm Danielle Lemoyne, an online fitness coach who helps women build strength, lose fat, and most importantly, stay consistent without constantly starting over. Before we start today, I want you to take a breath with me. Not a dramatic breath, just a slow inhale and a slow exhale. Because the topic we're going to talk about today affects far more people than we realize, especially women who are trying to take care of their health while juggling real life. And before we dive into the education part of today, I want to share something a little bit personal for a moment. Recently, I went through a miscarriage, and in the weeks after it happened, I remember going quiet for a little bit, going for a walk outside, just because I needed to feel like myself again. I wasn't thinking about workouts or my macros. I wasn't thinking about my progress. I was thinking about how exhausted my body felt and how much pressure we often put on ourselves to keep pushing forward even when our bodies are asking for something different. And it made me reflect on something I see constantly with the women I coach. Most women are trying to change their bodies while they're living in a constant state of survival. They're doing their best. They're trying to stay consistent. They're trying to improve their health. But they're also navigating stress, responsibilities, pressure, and expectations all at the same time. And the truth is, our bodies are incredibly intelligent. They don't just respond to calories and workouts. They respond to the environment we're living in. So today I'm going to start with something that might feel a little confronting. If your body hasn't been changing in the way that you want it to, if you feel like you're doing a lot of the things right and you're consistent, you're trying to eat better, you're trying to get your workouts in, you're trying to hit your protein, you're trying to move more, but the results still feel slow, frustrating, or stalled, it might not be because you aren't trying hard enough. It might not even be because you're doing something wrong. It might actually be because your nervous system doesn't feel safe enough yet to adapt. Now, when we talk about body composition, fat loss, and strength, we usually focus on things like calories and macros, your training program, your daily steps, and your cardio, and those things absolutely do matter. But something that sits above all of that is your nervous system state. Your nervous system determines how well your body can recover from your training. It determines your hunger regulation, how you sleep, balancing your hormones, recovering from stress, and even how willing your body is to release stored body fat. And so today we're going to talk about something that is one of the most overlooked pieces of sustainable progress. Your body struggles to adapt when it stays in survival mode for too long. It adapts far more efficiently when it feels safe and regulated. So today we're going to talk about what survival mode actually means in the body, the difference between productive stress and chronic stress, how stress can influence fat loss and recovery, why so many women feel stuck even when they're trying, and how to regulate your system so your body can actually work with you. And just to be clear, this is not a bubble bath and relax more type of conversation. This is physiology, psychology, and this is strategy. So today, let's start by talking about what survival mode actually means. Your nervous system has two primary states that are important here. The sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight system, it's your go mode, and then the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is your rest and digest system, or more known as your repair, recover, and grow mode. You need both. Sympathetic activation is actually very helpful. You use it when you're working hard, solving problems, handling pressure, training in the gym, responding to challenges. Exercise itself is a form of stress, right? Training is stress. And growth actually requires stress. But the key difference is whether that stress is acute and recoverable or if it's chronic and overwhelming. So acute stress looks like a challenging workout, maybe a busy day or a short deadline, a moment of pressure. But afterwards, your body recovers from it. Chronic stress, however, looks like constant pressure. Usually poor sleep, under eating, overtraining even, emotional overwhelm, and never slowing down. When the body stays in that chronic stress for too long, the nervous system remains in sympathetic dominance. And then when that happens, certain physiological things start to occur. Your cortisol stays elevated. Blood sugar regulation becomes less efficient. Your recovery slows down. Sleep quality tends to drop, your digestion slows, and inflammation can increase. But here's an important point I want to clarify because this gets misunderstood a lot. Stress does not magically stop fat loss. And your energy balance still matters here. If someone is in a calorie deficit, fat loss can still occur. But chronic stress can make fat loss much harder to sustain because it influences your hunger and your sleep, your recovery, even your water retention and cravings, your energy, and even your consistency. So the real impact of stress is often behavioral and physiologically combined. Now, one of the biggest ways the body enters survival signaling is something called low energy availability. That simply means that the body doesn't have enough incoming energy to support both life and training demands. This can happen when somebody is training hard while they're eating very little, if we're skipping meals or dieting aggressively, or if we're trying to lose weight during a really high stressful season of life, and if we're chronically under-eating our protein or our calories. When the body senses that low energy availability, it becomes more conservative with the energy output. So this can look like lower recovery, higher fatigue, or more cravings. You might see reduced training performance, some hormonal shifts, slower progress. And again, the body isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect its resources. So now let's bring this into real life, because this is exactly what I see with many women that I coach. Most women I work with are not lazy. They're not lacking discipline. In fact, it's often the opposite. They're incredibly hardworking. They're juggling careers, families, responsibilities, the pressure. And they're trying to improve their health on top of all of that. They know that they should eat more protein. They know that they should strength train or walk more, sleep more, drink water. The challenge usually isn't the knowledge piece. The challenge is the capacity. And when the nervous system becomes overloaded, symptoms start to show up. You might start experiencing things like feeling puffy or inflamed. Maybe you're feeling exhausted but wired. Your cravings increase. You experience poor sleep. You have more difficulty recovering from your workouts, or you feel like you're constantly starting over. And even there's a feeling like you're doing everything right, but nothing is changing. And one really common experience that I notice is water retention. Stress hormones can increase the water retention in your body. So sometimes fat loss is actually happening underneath the surface, but the scale doesn't reflect it yet. And that can make people think that their efforts aren't actually working, but often the body just needs time and stability. I want to pause here for a second and say something really important. If you recognize yourself in any of these experiences, feeling puffy, struggling with your cravings, feeling exhausted, feeling like you're constantly starting over, it doesn't mean that your body is broken. It means your body is responding. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem isn't that your body is failing. The problem is that the environment around your body has been asking it to operate in constant pressure mode. And when that happens, the body shifts into protection. Another thing that happens is something called a behavioral stress loop. Stress affects sleep. We know that, right? Poor sleep increases hunger hormones. High hunger makes dieting harder. It's just a fact. When dieting becomes harder, people feel like they need to tighten the control. So they start to cut their calories further, or they start pushing harder in their workouts. Maybe they add more cardio, which increases the stress again. And that creates a stress spiral. So the real issue is not that someone isn't disciplined enough. It's that the system has been overloaded. So here are some signs that your nervous system might be overloaded. Some constant fatigue. If you're having trouble sleeping. If you're feeling wired at night. You're experiencing frequent cravings. Having difficulty recovering from your workouts. If you're feeling inflamed or puffy, maybe you're feeling mentally overloaded, or feeling like consistency is really hard to maintain. Now, I want to remind you that none of these mean you're broken. They're just signals, and your body is communicating that to you. Now let's talk about what actually helps, because regulation doesn't mean doing nothing. It means creating conditions where the body can adapt. Number 1, eat enough to signal safety. Food is information for the body. Consistent meals signal that resources are available. Protein stabilizes your blood sugar, carbohydrates support your nervous system function, and dietary fats support hormone production. Eating consistently tells your body it doesn't need to panic. Number 2, sleep is a non-negotiable. Sleep affects your hormones, your recovery, your hunger regulation, your stress tolerance. 7 to 9 hours is not luxury. It is physiology. It is the one thing that as we have evolved as humans, we have not been able to change because it's necessary for our bodies. Number 3, train for adaptation. Your training should be structured. Progressive overload builds strength and muscle, and your training should challenge you, but it should also allow recovery. You don't need to destroy yourself every workout. Consistency always beats intensity. Number 4, lower baseline stress. Simple habits help regulate the nervous system. Things like walking outdoors, getting morning sunlight, breathing slower, consistent routines, reducing your digital overload, having some quiet time. And these are not spa habits. These are just nervous system inputs. So here's a simple framework to think about. For your daily, think about eating balanced meals. Move your body in some way. Get sunlight and prioritize your sleep. On a weekly basis, strength train. Have recovery days as well, and prepare your meals ahead of time. On a monthly basis, evaluate your stress levels. Adjust training if you need to, and give your body time to recover. Here's a few questions that you can ask yourself to reflect on. Where in my life am I constantly in go mode? What is currently stressing my body the most? Am I eating enough? Am I sleeping enough? Is my training structured or emotional? And what is one habit I could implement this week to support regulation? Transformation does not come from the chaos. It comes from stability. And one of the biggest mindset shifts I've had on my own journey, and something I see with my clients even, is realizing this. Most people think transformation comes from pushing harder, but the body often changes the most when it finally feels safe enough to stop surviving. Strength doesn't come from constantly proving how much you can suffer. It comes from creating an environment where your body can actually thrive. If your body has felt resistance lately, instead of asking, what do I need to add? Try asking, what do I need to stabilize? You do not need to earn your rest. You do not need to suffer to succeed. You do not need to prove your discipline through exhaustion. Your body will work with you when it feels safe. Imagine what your health journey would feel like if it wasn't driven by pressure. If your workouts supported your energy instead of drained it. If your nutrition felt stabilizing instead of restrictive. And if your body felt like a partner instead of something you constantly fight against. That's the type of transformation we're actually working towards. And that's how we create sustainable results. If this episode resonated with you, come hang out with me on Instagram at DL Fitness Coaching. Send me a message and let me know what landed for you. And if you're ready for support applying this in your own routine, you can find all the details about my coaching in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.